My name is Cece McKiernan, and I am the president of McKiernan Consulting Services. Basically, the work that I do for the last 8 years has been meeting coordination, outreach, and communication. And I've been doing that mostly in the world of flood risk. I'm also fortunate in that I have been contracted to be the FFMA Executive Director, Florida Floodplain Managers Association. And we are a statewide membership-based nonprofit. We have everything from private consultants to local government members to people in the planning industry, GIS, and we're over 700 members right now, and we're really going strong. And one of our main goals is to provide training opportunities. Those folks that raise their hands that were CFMs, we provide opportunities to get that CFM credit, but we're also expanding into the world of planners, GIS, we offer PE credits and surveyors, so we're constantly looking for ways to get more bang for you all's buck. I will mention that he snuck in the room after we started with introductions, but I'd like to introduce our new chair of the Florida Floodplain Managers Association, Chris Zambito. He's here from Dewberry, and I know Chris is going to do a fantastic job coming up for the next year for FFMA. But I'm here to talk a little bit today about the Program for Public Information. So who knows what a PPI is? Raise your hand. Oh, a good number of people already. Good. So I'll be quizzing you guys as we go along through this. Who has a PPI? Who lives in a community that has a PPI? Good, good, good. Oh, see, these guys know that they're part of the group. And who in this room is on a PPI committee? Who sits on a PPI committee? Okay, good. So I can do a little bit more basic information, and all of you guys that are raising your hand in the room, call me on anything that you want to add or that I may be misstating here. So the CRS requires tasks that we do, as these folks have been talking about already, that allow us to get points through the NFIP. And there are some required things just to be part of the NFIP. But as we move forward, a lot of communities do a lot more than that, and they're looking for discounts to help us lower the cost of the insurance that we were just talking about. One of the great ways to do that is using this Program for Public Information. It's putting together all of the outreach that everybody is already doing. A lot of it is required, but it's just us looking at that as a way to kind of hone our message a little bit more. I'll be talking more about that as we move forward. Now, if you take anything away from my presentation today, I want you to take this website address away. This resource guide is fantastic. This is CRS Resources, and they have all kinds of information in here. You can go online, and they have examples of things. And right here you can see with the 330 outreach projects, this is developing a program for public information, and they have how to go about doing that, and they have a downloadable PDF. You think, okay, that would be pretty easy to do that. So how do we start? The big thing to do is to make sure that you have local support. You want to get with your higher ups and make sure that this is something that they want to pursue. You form a committee, and you keep them coming to meetings. Now, how do you go about doing that? Well, I use a little technique, and you guys can probably use this at this stage. I use a little technique called candy. Okay, so we're going to pass this out here. You guys pass it down the way there. Everybody's going to get a little chocolate. The other thing that you can do that we have found works very, very well is lunch. So you can give them lunch. Here, we'll put one over here in the peanut gallery, should I call it? The sides. All right. I'll tell you a quick little story about candy. I think I have enough time. I was doing a presentation in Atlanta with a group of people. They were all cooperators for flood mapping, and it was a lot of FEMA people. And you know how government agencies and FEMA folks love acronyms, right? I mean, everybody's talking in acronyms. So I was giving a presentation on how to do outreach for people who are getting new flood maps. And we were talking about when these people come to the meetings, we have candy there. We actually have candy, and for some bizarre reason, candy, you'll be told, oh, I'm sorry, the new map shows that you're mapped into the high-risk flood zone. You're going to need to buy flood insurance. Here, have a piece of candy. And people were okay with that. We couldn't figure out what was going on, but people were somewhat okay with that. Now, I make light of it. But anyway, I was talking about this technique. And a gentleman that I do a lot of work with from FEMA was actually not in the room that day. The next day, he was in the room at this conference, and he was talking about how they were having problems connecting with the residents. And somebody who had heard my presentation raised their hand and said, have you tried candy? And he said, what's that an acronym for? Like it was some kind of government program, candy. So we call it cute and necessary delicious yummies. That's candy, so that's what candy stands for. Anyway, if there's a way for you to either offer your meeting during lunchtime and bring lunch in, or find a way to do that, you can talk with me afterwards. I'll give you some information on how you can possibly make that happen. Then you're going to select projects, you write a report, you gain support from your elected officials, you take this PPI to the elected officials, have them approve it, and then you put together a method of following your progress and evaluating every year. Easy, right? That sounds really easy. No problem whatsoever. Well, I stole this from Lisa Foster. Lisa Foster's in the back of the room there, and you're going to see a couple slides from her and one from Noah here, both of whom have worked through the PPI process. You must be very diligent in the steps that you take in putting together a PPI. It really, I'm going to tell you, it's not easy, but the benefits of it at the other end are very much worth the effort in doing this. So you really have to follow a process. You have to formulate your messages, examine all the other public information that people are working on in whatever community that you're working in. So there's a process to it that you really do need to follow. So put the committee together. This was the big thing that we had to do when we first started out working here in Pinellas County. And you really want to make sure that you're taking a broad brush of the community. You have to have 5 people. It has to be a minimum of 5 people. You have to have somebody from your floodplain management office, and definitely somebody from your public information office. If you don't have one, if your community is too small, designate somebody, tell them they're going to be the PIO, and they want to come to the meeting. At least half of the members must be outside of the local government. These are your stakeholders. These people are going to bring so much to the process. You have absolutely no idea, but you have to get them there, and you want to actually get them in more numbers than the people that you have from your local government representatives. That was always a balance for us. We'd be watching people walk in the door. Is that a stakeholder? Is that a local government person? We'd have to send some of our local government people away. But anyway, you want to make sure that you have that correct balance. And then this says for 370 credit only, this is directly out of that CRS resource manual that I was talking about. But I want to tell you, whether you need it or not, you absolutely positively need people from local insurance agencies, and you have to have try to get somebody, a bank or a lender. We're working on this right now. That's been the hardest nut for us to crack, but all of these people bring so much to the table as far as putting these plans together that beyond just getting that activity 370 credit, you want to get them at the table. You also want all of your emergency management people, not all of them, you want one emergency management person, somebody from planning. I know we were talking about Pinellas County. We have Pinellas County planning here today. You definitely want somebody from your parks. Those people are going to be doing things like adopt a pond. They'll be working with their community cleanup. They have all kinds of contact with those residents out there, and they're going to be great resources for you to be able to take your message out to. And any kind of programs that you have that relate to flood and natural floodplain function, you want to make sure you have those people at the table. But again, if you're going to invite them and they work for the local government, they must bring a stakeholder friend with them. And all you have to do is say to them, now who do you work with in the community closely? Who is somebody that you really rely on out in the community for your voice? Bring them to the meeting, and then you can assure that you're keeping your balance there. One of the areas that I was fortunate, and I'm going to say this several times in this presentation, I am so fortunate to be working with Pinellas County right now. This is a project that Lisa has undertaken, and this is the Real Estate Flood Disclosure Program. And we just, last week we just put a meeting on to start this process, get some feedback from the real estate folks. Because as you heard, Pinellas County was like the hotbed of the crisis when the whole Biggert Waters came out and the real estate effects were happening. So this is the place to have this happen. I'm really excited about the potential for this project. We've been doing a great job so far. This was the training. We had lots of people there. Yes, you can see there's a sandwich. So just a little bit of incentive there. But then here's Lisa, and Lisa's presenting here, and the slide is kind of hard to see, but this shows the discounts. Lisa's showing the slide about how you can get discounts for all of the efforts, and we're saying, hey, real estate community, we really need your help with this. Help us save the residents of Pinellas County some money on their flood insurance. And we got wonderful response. We're very excited about this project. So one of the first things you need to do is figure out what projects are we going to select. So you think, okay, what kind of projects do we need? But go in and look at what you have. Pinellas County was doing so many things. There was so much going on that we needed to just sit back and assess all of the outreach that was going on. We have hurricane season coming. All the communities are doing some type of outreach right now. All you have to do is throw a little message in about flooding, and the messages can be tweaked. It's really that easy, but you have to really analyze it and figure out what you want to do and what you can do. Some of the things that you might be choosing are way beyond, we talked about potentially going into schools and doing some training. There were things that we had to put on the back burner. You have to figure out, okay, what can we do right now? And can we make something better? Is there already an effort going on out there, and we can look at it and say, hey, let's put these two messages into this pamphlet, and it's going to make it even better. And get that biggest bang for the buck. How many things can we do with something that we're already doing? We already send a letter out to repetitive loss areas. Let's put a flyer in there that covers, I'm going to get to topics, but that covers all the topics that we want, so you get a targeted message to a certain community with all those messages that you want to create, and never be satisfied. I have to tell you that working with Lisa Foster, Lisa is never satisfied, and she's constantly saying to me, what can we do better? How can we make this better? And that's what you need, because every time you make something better, you're going to be able to share it with other communities, and they're going to be able to benefit from that too. So let's talk a little bit about who you're going to target. You want to target certain areas. I talked about repetitive loss areas. Those are areas that are pretty easy. You have a list of them. You already have those. Also, we were talking about the special flood hazard area, the high-risk areas. We already know those. Those are on a map. But how about the areas that when you have some kind of, gully washer, we call them, and the neighborhood floods, and it's not really something that you see all the time, but it's like a hot spot or an area that you just know is always a problem, a certain intersection. You want to start looking at all of those kind of details, and that's where your emergency managers and the people that are out on the streets when the floods happen, your communities, your community representatives, those people in homeowners associations, all these people have that information. And then you have to also think about your audiences. Who are you targeting with this information? You definitely are looking at the at-risk people, those people that are in those high-risk flood areas. But especially here in this area, we have to remember our seniors. I mean, we have a lot of seniors. And the first thing that I hear all the time when people are talking about new maps or get the information out is, oh, we'll put it on the website. Well, guess what, folks? Not everybody is on the web. There are still people out there that, anybody have a flip phone in this room? There are still people out there that are carrying flip phones. You know what I mean? We have to remember our audiences, and we can't rush to let's just put that on the web and they'll go and find it. People want to get that message delivered to them. They want to get a phone call. They want to see the guy on the news saying, hey, you got to be aware of this stuff. People want us to reach out to them. We can't rely on, here's the website, go get the information, because some people aren't able to do that. And I can tell you that it really creates more of a community feeling then when you're reaching out to these people. So you're going to do door hangers. Maybe there's a community center. You can put the note on a billboard. You can go into the community centers and actually do presentations. So always keep that in mind. Think about the audiences and who you're going to be delivering this message to. And then we also have a huge bilingual population. So you have to think about, what am I doing? And you can actually get extra points for things that you translate into other languages. So that's always something to keep in mind. Now, a lot of you know the CRS, you have these top priority messages that you want to put together, things like insure your property for flood hazard, build responsibly. We all kind of know those. But get creative and think about your own. One of the best topics that Pinellas County came up with is something that we call flood economics. And that's going out and making sure that people understand. We have done all of these activities. We've conducted a lot of outreach so that we can reduce the cost of your flood insurance. So you're being made aware, which is the number one thing. You're aware of your risk. But then two, you're also going to have cost savings in this, so the flood economics. And that really plays well to your local government and your elected officials. So you can say, look, yeah, we're putting this person on this project, but it's going to save our residents a lot of money. And that goes a long way when it comes to election time. They can use that in their election campaign. So online, you see all these tables in the PPI. It could be mind-boggling, to be really honest with you. So you want to definitely get somebody on your team that's very good with details. I was fortunate, again, that I had Lisa. Lisa put together a lot of tables, and they can get a little confusing, but to have folks help you to be able to work through those, you really do want to organize things. So, there were all these topics and messages, and then we have to look at what are the outcomes. I mean, you can't come up with a message if you can't measure how effective the message is. So you want to make sure that you have some outcomes listed too. This is another thing. Lisa, I'm just singing your praises through this whole presentation. That's okay. These are all really great things that you guys can use. One of the things that Lisa came up with was creating, for each project that we had, was creating a project sheet that kind of gave all the details. The best part about this was there were a lot of projects going on and a lot of people who were responsible for different things. We could just hand this to the responsible person and say, here, this is your project to work on, and they didn't get overwhelmed with, a lot of the details on it. And Pinellas County shares. They're a very good sharer, and so they want you to have all of this information. It's on their website, and in the Q&A, I think Lisa can probably answer some questions if you have. So again, here's another slide from Lisa's PowerPoint that she did about why a PPI. There were so many outreach efforts going on throughout all the different areas of the county. This pulled everything together, put it all in one funnel, and we wound up with a coordinated, comprehensive project list that we were able to look at and really move forward with. Now, Noah Taylor, I'm going to switch over now to Noah, who's also in the audience. See, you guys have two what I consider now experts in this in the room with you today. So when we get to the question and answer part, I'm definitely going to deflect a lot of your questions to these two experts because they've done a lot of this themselves and they know how it works. But Noah actually went in and looked to see, hey, what point benefit is this? And he put together a table that if you have questions later on, you can ask him about that. But he put a table together talking about why is this worthwhile putting together and how much could we, how many extra points could we get? And then he also did the national community average, which I love because that creates that healthy competition where you want to beat the national average. So how can we beat the national average with some of the activities that we're doing? And both entities have been very successful with this. So here's Pinellas County's PPI. It was approved by the County Commission April 7th of last year. So we have this as an example. And again, it's very shareable. There's our, in fact, in this room, right over there in this corner, you can see the committee here. And the other thing that I'll mention to you is if this is something that you might even have an interest in, we're having our next meeting Monday, June 27th. So it's the end of the month, and it's here in this room, and we start at 11:30. So please feel free to come by and just check us out and see what's going on. And if you do have an interest in it, we would love to have you and at least give you some ideas about, how you go about doing this PPI. I'll just mention one of the other things because I have a moment of time. When we first started putting this together for Pinellas County, there are so many local governments within Pinellas County. There was a question, can we all jump in on this together? And as you can see with that fine balance of stakeholders and county representatives, we had to maintain that, and we were a little bit concerned to get too big too fast. We wanted to get some of this under our belts, and now we're able to share that a little bit more. So it's something that we would definitely be interested in sharing with you. This report is a pretty lengthy report. It has a lot of details because there were a lot of activities going on. I mean, somewhere like 100 pages-ish, I think, with the addendums and appendixes and all of that kind of stuff. It's very well organized, so very worth you guys going and looking at. City of St. Pete also has their program for public information out there. This was adopted in August of last year. NOAA's got 13 pages. It's great information. It did the job. So whether you do a 100-page or a 13-page, as long as you're diligent about putting all of the steps together, it's going to be effective for you, and you're going to be able to use it moving forward. So, you know, it's a fluid thing. I think that the CRS and the Insurance Services Office is looking at a lot of these that are coming out now nationally, and they're kind of getting an idea of what works and what doesn't, and they're tweaking how they want to see these. But we were able to come out of the front of the gate and say, here's ours, you know, we're moving forward with this, and definitely gains a lot of benefit from that. So again, my name is Cece McKiernan. This is both of my email addresses, McKiernan Consulting and my executive director position at the Florida Floodplain Managers Association. I'm going to make a shameless plug, and I'm going to say, if you're interested in becoming a CFM, if you're interested in finding out more about flood risk, just the whole world of flood, become a member. All you have to do is click on that Join Now button. We're one of the least expensive membership organizations that I'm aware of. It's only $60 for a year. So, you know, it's worth it to join, and you get all kinds of discounts on training that we have coming up. I see a lot of insurance type training in our future here. We're definitely going to be teaming with these folks because, as I said, it was an area that I think that we need a lot more information in, and that last presentation was very informative to me. So we're going to be doing a lot more of that, but we have everything from introduction to the National Flood Insurance Program, elevation certificate training. We were talking about the elevation certificates and how people, you know, don't want to spend the money to get those. We have advanced training and no-rise certifications. We have all kinds of training going on all across the state, all throughout the year. And so we would be very interested in you guys joining us and coming on board. Next year, in 2015, and I have my conference chair, Chrissy Maley, in the back with Amick Foster Wheeler. She and I have been working already with Noah Taylor and Rick Dunn from the city of St. Petersburg. FFMA's conference is going to be at the Hilton, downtown St. Pete, and we're going to have 4 days of great training and some wonderful tours, something about a pub tour thing and some other bicycles that have bars that ride down the street and stuff. But then there's also good informative stuff too. And with that, thank you very much.